Oops. So we're going to be using the handout that the rabbi introduced last week. So she sent a link.
Oh, yeah, I wish I'd taken that home.
Yeah, but it's all familiar
online.
stuff.
Lori, you can print it out from online.
Let's see, wait. From online, I can go to, well, you know what, that's okay, because I'll screw something up. This iPad won't go to the computer. It's my printer. My printer is not compatible with my iPad, so something's goofy. But what the heck?
Here, I've got a link I can put in the chat if anybody needs it.
Oh yeah.
To the PDF.
Oh, that would be great. I'm just trying to figure out where that is on this thing.
Yeah, that works.
We'll get started with our opening song. Hine ma tovu manayim severachim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim severachim gam yachad. Behold how good and how wonderful it is when brothers and sisters sit together. We'll now light the Shabbat candles.
Lori, you're not muted.
Oh, yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. We can do the first verse and the last verse of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So those who want can rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. Move to page 2. Eternal God, whose temple is the whole world and whose dwelling place is the human heart, we know that you are everywhere and that your presence never leaves us. Yet we are thankful for appointed times and chosen places where in fellowship with one another, our spirits turn to you. At this service, at this hour, and in this place, help us to feel your nearness. The week of toil is ended, the day of rest has come, and we pause to reflect on the meaning of our lives. Source of all creation, you have given us the blessing of work, so that by our efforts we may fashion things and use the moments of helpfulness. You have also given us Shabbat for self-renewal and sanctification. May the work of our hands and minds be acceptable to you. May this Shabbat enrich our lives, drawing us closer to you in truth and in love. And together the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, leolam vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta b'am. V'shitecha b'beitecha u'vechtecha b'derech u'shachtecha u'kumecha u'kshartam leod hayadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam amezuzot beitecha u'bisharecha Leman tizkaru v'asitem kol mitzvotai v'tem kadoshim lelechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti yadchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. If we have learned one thing from our past, it is that to live through dramatic events is not enough. One has to share them and transform them into acts of conscience. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh. No ratihilot o seifele, no ratihilot o seifele. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe, zeili hanu ve'amru, Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch, le'olam va'ed. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Your children witnessed your sovereignty, the sea splitting before Moses and Miriam. This is our God, they cried. Adonai will reign forever and ever. We will now move into the Amida. Those who wish can stand. Adonai shefatati tachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. I'm going to read this in English since we always do it in Hebrew and I'm tired of singing. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, God of our fathers and mothers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, God of Sarah, God of Rebekah, God of Rachel, and God of Leah, the great, mighty, and awesome God, transcendent God who bestows loving kindness, creates everything out of life, remembers the love of our fathers and mothers, and brings redemption to their children's children for the sake of the divine name. Sovereign, deliverer, helper, and shield. Blessed are you, Adonai, Abraham's shield and Sarah's helper. You are forever mighty, Adonai. You give life to all. You sustain life through love, giving life to all through great compassion, supporting the fallen, healing the sick, freeing the captive, keeping faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, source of mighty acts? Who resembles you, the sovereign who takes and gives life, causing deliverance to spring up and faithfully giving life to all? Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives life to all. Ata kadosh b'shimcha kadosh, kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha salah. Baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the Holy God. We believe in tomorrow. We believe that we have the power to make tomorrow different from today. We believe that poverty need not be permanent and that people not learn war forever. We believe in people despite all that we know about them. We believe that there can still be a time of peace and a time of justice, a time of fellowship and a time of tranquility for all who live on earth. We believe that we can have a share in bringing that day closer by the way in which we live in the week to come. Even though the world may smile at our dreams, it does not matter. We still believe. Shalom Rabba Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever, for you are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Okay, we'll take this time now to mention those who are in need of healing, those that may be sick physically or mentally or going through difficult times. I will start off the list with Maureen Moody Scott and David Van Artsdalen. So anybody who would like to mention anything, please unmute yourself.
Sandy Johnson,
Jack Scott,
Arlene Graham,
Okay. Misheberach Avotenu Makor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach Imotenu Makor HaBracha Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We'll pause now for a moment of silent meditation. Oseh shalom bimrama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Oseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Well, a couple words about today's portion. Today's portion is called Pinchas. And first, there's a little backstory before I get started. Those of you who went to services last week, the rabbi spoke of the portion, but she did kind of the nice, happy part in which Balaam blessed the congregation of Israel. He was asked to curse Israel. He was a prophet from another land, and he was told to curse Israel, but he couldn't, so he praised it and said, "How goodly are thy tents." So that was kind of the nice, happy part of the portion. But what the rabbi didn't mention was kind of the ending of the portion, where they were talking about the Israelites turning to Baal and the gods of Midian, and there came one of the Israelites called Zimri, showed up with his main squeeze, who was a Midianite woman and was kind of flaunting it. So Zimri and Cosby, the woman that he was with, retired to their tent. Pinchas, who's the grandson of Aaron, went kind of crazy at that. And with the religious fervor, he took his sword or spear and threw it and impaled both of them and killed them on the spot. So that was how the last week's portion ended, and the rabbi didn't really discuss that part of it very much. And at the time also, there was a curse going on, and God was angry and was commanding Moses to kill all these people and cut their heads off and impale them on spears and all that. But when God saw what Pinchas did, he was very pleased. He took away the curse, the plague went away, and he blessed and praised Pinchas for what he did, and everybody went on happily ever after. And the more liberal traditions have a difficult time with Pinchas because they view him as a zealot. Now, when people have zeal, that's kind of a positive thing. That's eagerness, a strong interest in pursuits of something, fervor, but when it's turned into being a zealot, it's referring to a person who is fanatical and compromising in pursuit of their religious, political, or other ideals. So it has a very negative connotation. And as you read the more liberal commentaries on this, and they really don't think very much of Pinchas, and that this was sort of the wrong thing to do, and that especially in this day and age, there's a lot of zealots out there that are doing things that don't seem rational. These are the extremists and people of the various faiths that are out there that kill for their beliefs. But when you read the more traditional, the Orthodox interpretations, they say, well, no, this must be what God wanted him to do, because he blessed them and he praised them, and the Israelites had a lot less rebellion from that point forward. So that's the way it is. One thing that is a sort of apologist for Pinchas is, unbeknownst to me, is that he shows up later in the Bible in the book of Joshua, where apparently the tribes were dividing things up, there was 2.5 tribes on one side of the Jordan River, and the rest of the tribes were on the other side of the Jordan River. And the tribes, on the smaller number of tribes, were setting up their own places to do sacrifices. And the majority tribes thought that they were going to set up a competition, and that they were going to, compete with the major Israel, and that they were angry enough that they were going to go to war to these people and possibly create a division. And who was the mediator between these two groups of people but Pinchas? So he was not, at that point, the zealot, the people on the majority side that wanted to overcome and destroy this little splinter group, but he was able to come up with negotiations and create peace between these 2.5 tribes and the tribes on the other side. So some people say that, well, Pinchas, true, was a zealot back in the day, but he moderated himself, he opened his eyes, he grew, and he matured, and he became this negotiating person who can see both sides of the argument, and that he turned out to be a pretty good guy. So you can take that for what it's worth. So after that part of the portion, there's other things that happen. One thing is that there's a census that goes on, and they count how many people and how large each of the tribes is, and they use these numbers to figure out who's going to get inheritance and who's going to get so much. And it's at that point that we have Mala, Noah, Hagla, Milcah, and Tirzah make an appearance, and they are not Tevye's daughters, but those are 5 daughters of Tzlafachad, who had died and left no sons. And traditionally, all the lands are left to sons. So these 5 named young women went to Moses, which takes a lot of guts, a lot of chutzpah to go to Moses and say, well, it's not right. Our father died and he was a righteous man, and now his land and his memory will be lost because there are no sons to inherit the land from him. And we don't think that's right. And Moses didn't really know what to do. So he went to God and asked God what to do. And God said, yes, they're right. And in this situation, when there's no sons, then it's okay to go ahead and give your land to the daughters. And this is really quite a big deal. And the feminist movement is made big about this because, traditionally, the men rule the women, and that's the way it is. The women really have no role. They have no power. They really have no say in anything. So this was really a major moment in biblical history. And just to finish up, it kind of reminded me of Elizabeth Blackwell, who most of you probably don't know, but it's kind of an interesting history. But Elizabeth Blackwell was America's first woman physician. And the reason that I know her is that I went to medical school in Syracuse, New York, and the address is Elizabeth Blackwell Drive. And Elizabeth Blackwell ended up going to medical school in Geneva Medical College, which eventually became the medical school that I went to. And she wasn't Jewish, but I thought that she was interesting and kind of in the spirit of these 5 daughters. Because her father immigrated with 9 or 10 children from England and settled in Cincinnati. And he was an abolitionist, and he wanted to get sugar out of beets and do it without slaves. Unfortunately, he died and left the family destitute. So one thing that did is that it made the girls realize, well, they can't depend on a husband to take care of them. So they had to go do things on their own. So they studied and they became educated. And Elizabeth Blackwell was very much influenced by feminist readings that she had done then. So she was interested in biology. So she said, well, I'm going to go to medical school. So she studied and applied to medical school, and 29 medical schools rejected her. I'm sure because she was a woman, and at that time there were no women in medical schools. So then she applied to this Geneva Medical College, and the deans and the people in charge didn't really want to make the decision, so they left it up to the student body. So they asked these 150 guys, they said, well, what do you want to do? You can vote on it, and however you decide, that's what we'll do. So the 150 guys thought, as a joke, we'll vote yes. So they all voted yes, and Elizabeth Blackwell went to college because the medical students there were making a joke. And of course, when she graduated number 1 in her class. Unfortunately, as well qualified as she was, she couldn't find a job. Nobody would hire her. So she ended up forming a clinic in New York City for indigent women and kids, and was very successful with that. It was kind of sad, so even women who had the means to go to physicians wouldn't go to her. So then she set up a clinic in England for the same sort of thing. And then gradually with time, she developed a medical school in that clinic in New York City and educated a lot of women. And then finally, some of the more well-known medical schools started letting women in. And then there was no real need for her smaller medical school, and then she subsequently closed it. Her sister also became a physician. So when I read this story about the 5 daughters, it made me think of Elizabeth Blackwell. And the reason that I knew about Elizabeth Blackwell is that this was the 200th anniversary of her birth, and the medical school is going to do a bunch of stuff in her honor. So they published a little biography about her, and I read it. So there you have it, the other side of the story. So pretty interesting stuff. And with that, we'll move on to Aleinu, our prayer for a perfect and perfected world. So you may or may not know, but medical schools these days are at least 50% women and possibly more than that. So we're on Aleinu, which is the bottom of page 5. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tikidula l'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, v'melech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. As it has been said, Adonai will be sovereign over all the earth. On that day, Adonai will be one and God's name will be one. We now turn to the mourner's Kaddish to remember those who passed on this day, on the anniversary of this day. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. So this week we remember Joni Horowitz, Richard Sachs, Rose Landerman, Beatrice Michelson, Sandra Sendlovitz, Meta Nathan, Juliet Simon, Helene Albert, Phil Friedman, Charles Swerdlow, and Francis Levine. Are there any other names that anybody would like to add? Okay, then all those that would like can rise, and as a community, we'll recite Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'hamad divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shmei D'Kudashah b'richu. Ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata miran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. The only announcement that I have is that we'll be meeting for Apocrypha class tomorrow at 10 o'clock. The Zoom link should be in the same email as you received to join the service. We'll have services next week. I think, Lorraine, are you leading those? I see a little nod, so I guess Lorraine will be leading those next week. So everybody please come.
Great, and thank you to Marty for leading this week. I appreciate it. And there will be, I think the week after mine, I think the choir is doing it, and then there will be continuing lay-led services through the rest of July and August. Please join us.
Thank you. So if you have any wine, you can join me in Kiddush and Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kadsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishi ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kadshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-shabbat. Amen. Now Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. We'll finish up with Adon Olam. So everybody join me, so at least in your own individual rooms, I'm not singing all by myself. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra v'nasa b'cheptzo kol azai melech shemo nikra v'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora Behu haya, behu hove, behu yeh b'tifara, behu echad ve'en sheni, v'hamshilo lahachbira, b'li reshit, b'li tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, behu eli v'chai go'ali, v'tzorcheli v'yetzara, behu nisi u'manosli, Menat kosi b'yom ekra b'yado mafkid ruchi v'yedi shan v'yayira b'im ruchi g'viati Adonai li v'lo yira. I'd like to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, happy Independence Day, have a fun and safe weekend ahead, and hope that good things happen to all of you. So if you all want to unmute.
Marty.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Marty.
Marty.
Shalom, everyone.
Thank you. Shabbat
Shalom.
shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye, Simon. Thanks for
Shalom.
coming.